On Wednesday, March 27th at 3:11, Rockford police officers responded to 2316 Holmes Street in reference to an individual being run over by a vehicle and possibly stabbed. Upon arrival, officers conducted a welfare check, at which time they located a male and female deceased inside their residence. Both victims appeared to have been stabbed. Witnesses have said that they observed one of the deceased, Jacob, being chased across the street by a subject who was later identified as Christian Soto. Witnesses stated they observed Christian in possession of an unknown, possibly black object, and was hitting or stabbing Jacob as he was laying on the ground. It was then observed by witnesses that the suspect entered a black Chevy Silverado, which had been parked in the driveway, and he proceeded to run over Jacob at the end of the driveway. Jacob was observed getting up and running back into his residence. Soto was observed running back into the residence and exited a short time later. Soto entered his Chevy pickup and was last seen southbound on Holmes. Officers located a United States Postal employee named Jay Larson, who had suffered multiple stab wounds to his body in the front yard of 2217 Winnetka. Larson was transported to the hospital nearby, where he later succumbed to his injuries. Officers spoke with a witness named Craig Gurr, who resided at 2217 Winnetka. Gurr advised that he was inside his residence when he heard a commotion outside. He advised that he observed a male battering a U.S. postal worker. He referred to the man as his mailman in a grassy area near the front of his residence. Gurr said he observed the subject on top of the mailman punching him. Said that he opened his front door and he heard the mailman yell to call the police. He said he called 911. He observed the suspect then begin to walk towards his front door. He said he quickly locked the front door and pointed and continued to watch the incident through his window. Gurr advised that he watched the suspect walk back to his black pickup truck nearby and retrieve a knife from the vehicle. He described the knife as being a distinct due to its having an orange handle. He said the suspect approached the mailman again and stabbed him numerous times in various parts of his body. Said the suspect then entered the driver's seat of the pickup and drove forward, running over the postman. Said that he also hit a parked car nearby. Said the suspect then reversed the truck and ran over the postman a second time, where he finally stopped the vehicle and ran away through some houses. Officers began to receive 911 calls about an attack at 4803 Cleveland. Upon their arrival, they met with Darlene Weber and her son Jacob. Officers learned that the suspect, again later identified as Soto, forced his way into a residence and was armed with a katana-style knife. Darlene had just opened the door of the residence to allow their dog outside. At that time, Soto appeared at the doorway and stabbed Darlene on the left side of her face by her left eye. Soto then entered the residence and attacked Jacob and Kathy, who attempted to fight Christian off. Kathy sustained a stab wound to the lower left side of her chin, and Jacob sustained a laceration to the upper left side of his forehead and also inside the left side of his ear. Jacob was unsure if he was stabbed or if this was sustained from other injuries by Soto punching him. Jacob advised he was struck Christian Soto with a syrup bottle, at which time Kristen left the residence. Darlene, Jacob, and Kathy were all transported to a hospital nearby where they were treated for non-life-threatening injuries and were later released. As officers responding to the multiple report of crime scenes, Rockford Fire was flagged down by a female in the 4700 block of Cleveland who reported additional persons at 4715 Cleveland. Within the residence, officers located two juvenile females. along with the deceased juvenile female. The deceased juvenile female died protecting her sister and her sister's friend. She sustained multiple fractures, multiple lacerations to her head, and both girls that survived were hit multiple times by the baseball bat. They described the suspect as being covered in blood when he arrived. She described him as a male in his mid-20s, black hair with a bowl cut. He was later identified as Soto. Unfortunately, it goes on. But Soto was located and taken into custody wearing a gray sweatshirt and blue jeans. Soto was covered in blood. He had minor lacerations to his hands and treated and released from the hospital. He was taken to the police department where he was given his Miranda rights and admitted to these horrible crimes. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm all for trying to help people that want to help themselves. But when we have an incident like this, where innocent people are being brutalized, the mailman doing his job, stabbed, run over with a vehicle twice, and stabbed again, multiple times. We must start protecting the citizens of this state. I'm all for helping those that wish to help themselves, but maybe we've gone too far. It is time for us to come together and look at some of the things that we have done in this General Assembly and start looking at the victims and the victims' families, all that are usually forgotten here under this dome. We can't forget the victims any longer. We must protect the victims.
The House will observe a moment of silence.